The biggest snitch in rap has flown under our radar, but I'm here to expose him. Snitching in any circumstance is seen as the biggest betrayal and has been frowned upon by many. It's so serious to some that the consequence of snitching could lead to harassment, threats, and even death. But to this man, the consequences aren't as important as getting out of jail is and becoming a free man once again. He would be involved in snitching two of the biggest murder cases that the rap community has ever seen. And it all begins with X's murder trial. X's murder is not as simple of a story as it may seem. Years later, fans still have many questions left unanswered and are still speculating on the real reason for the assassination. And as you begin to dig deeper, you start to realize how interesting the details of his case are, and how the murderers themselves tied back to X and were in some sort of way associated with him years before they even murdered him. The men who plotted to murder X were very familiar with him and may have even been acquaintances at some point in time. A live video from over 6 years ago shows X mentioning a tattoo artist he is familiar with that has tattooed Kodak Black before.
Kodak. I actually got a guy that one of the guys in my group that tattoos Kodak. So I mean I could try and arrange that if anything.
Dedrick Williams is the tattoo artist that he was referring to, who would later be one of the 4 men involved in the murder of X. Dedrick Williams would also be the same man to plan out the scheme to rob and murder X after spotting him in a motorcycle shop. After seeing X shopping at Riva Motorsports in Deerfield Beach, Florida, tattoo man Chucky called the 3 other men to begin the plan. Dedrick Williams, along with Robert Allen, walked into the motor shop to check if X was still in there before proceeding with their plan. After spotting X still in the shop, the 2 men walked out to carry out what they had planned to do. But where does Robert Allen fit in all of this? Robert Allen was basically the errand boy for the other 3 men who would eventually be the ones responsible for killing X. He obviously wasn't fit enough to do any of the dirty work, so they sent him out to buy masks for the group and keep an eye on X, who was still in the motor shop. Moments later, a black SUV blocked X's car from leaving the plaza, where 2 men hopped out of the car and fatally shot and robbed xxxtentacion. The 4 men were eventually caught and faced life in prison for the murder of X, all but one. Robert Allen was pulled aside for an hour-and-a-half interrogation where he agreed to snitch on all of his friends who were involved in the murder case.
Okay. Who's that?
Chuck.
Who's that?
Butler.
And what's the last guy's name?
Trey.
All right, Trey. Is that Trey?
Yeah.
Which ones do you definitely know had guns?
Trey and Butler.
Okay, what did Trey have?
Trey had a handgun, some type of handgun. They were coming up Dixie Highway, and I think he said, Chucky said that was the man, XXX.
Okay, but what are they saying?
We finna get him.
Tell me what they said.
We're gonna get him, that's it.
Who?
XXX.
Yes, Robert Allen snitched to obviously receive less time in prison, but he was also motivated to snitch on his friends since he did not receive a bigger percentage of the $50,000 that they had stole from X.
And he said he took the $5,000, he tried to buy a car, and the guy ripped him off for his share of it. Did you ever go shopping with all those guys afterwards when they were buying all the shoes and stuff?
No.
Did you go shopping?
No.
So all your $5,000 you lost to the car deal. And who was the one who talked the group into letting you get some money out of it? Which one of them?
He wasn't really talking into like that, just like he was there, you might as well give him something.
Pretty soon after the murders happened, images began to surface online of the alleged killers holding up and flaunting the money. You can see Robert Allen holding a noticeably less amount than the other men. He later admitted in court that this sum of money came from the bag that they stole from X after murdering him.
If this currency that's in Mr. Newsom's hand was taken from the victim in this case after you and your co-defendants robbed and killed the victim?
Yes.
His entire interrogation footage was eventually leaked online, and Robert Allen told the authorities everything that they wanted to hear. This resulted in the judge giving him one of the best plea deals he could have asked for and avoided life in prison. He testified against Michael Boatwright, Dedrick Williams, and Trayvon Newsom. All 3 were sentenced to life in prison. Allen was left off easy due to his cooperation with the police. Robert Allen was only sentenced to 7 years in prison with credit for the time that he had already served. But the story doesn't end there with Robert Allen. It only gets more interesting from here. Many of you are probably familiar with, or at least have heard about, YNW Melly and his murder case. Not only has this trial taken the hip-hop community by storm, but mainstream media entirely had rushed to cover the details about his case. Only a few months after the death of X, Melly would be put in a situation that will follow him for the rest of his life. On October 26, 2018, Melly was seen getting into a car with 3 of his close friends after they had wrapped up a late recording session at a studio. But YNW Sack Chaser and YNW Juvie would have never expected what would happen moments later. YNW Borland was seen running frantically into a hospital, begging for help, as he explains to the medical staff that his two friends had just gotten shot in an apparent drive-by shooting. Both Sack Chaser and Juvie were pronounced dead at the hospital from bullet wounds to the head, torso, and back. And to make matters worse to an already sinister case, the police felt that YNW, Melly, and Borland were not telling them the whole truth about what really happened on the night of the murders. And soon after, both Melly and Borland were both arrested and charged with first-degree murder for the deaths of their two friends. You see, the police had suspicion that Melly faked the whole drive-by shooting to cover up the fact that him and Borland shot and murdered Juvie and Sack Chaser from inside of their own car. And it was also revealed that Melly drove around with their dead bodies for a period of time before taking them into the Memorial Hospital in Miramar, Florida. Melly's trial began in June 12th of 2023, where prosecutors sought out the death penalty. But after the jury were unable to reach a unanimous verdict, the case was ruled a mistrial, and Melly would have to wait in jail until his new trial was ready to begin. And I know what you might be asking yourself. How does any of this tie back to Robert Allen, the man involved in the murder of X? You see, both Robert Allen and Melly would be incarcerated and kept in Broward County Jail in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Rumors of supposed contact between both of the men began to surface online as they both awaited their trials. And with a new trial imminent for Melly, the prosecution filed for a supplemental discovery, where they revealed to have 7 new witnesses that will come forward to testify against Melly and provide new evidence that could lock him up forever. And one man in particular stood out to me. Yes, one of the new witnesses that is coming forward to snitch on Melly is none other than Robert Allen himself. It's unclear what evidence he will bring forward to this new trial, but many suspect that it may have something to do with them being locked up in the same jail together, or Melly could have revealed some new details about what happened on that night of the murders. If Robert Allen is able to bring forward significant evidence that would help the prosecution find Melly guilty, then Robert Allen would officially be responsible for helping police sentence 3 men to life in prison and Melly to the death penalty. But I guess we're gonna have to wait and see what the future will hold.